Yeah, hi there. I'm RazManager, or Raz for short, or Anders Ryberg in real life. Very welcome to my first, live presentation of my RazManager RMS. We are now at our local analog club. This is where we have maybe club nights with 20 drivers and other bigger events with maybe 30, 40 drivers. You can maybe see in the background that we are using the Lapmaster RMS, very trusted one, especially its hardware. I don't think it ever misses a beat. We have at our club here to display all things. We have two versions. We have 10 monitors with a landscape view where we're showing a heat leaderboard and some controls for the race control. And then we have another view with maybe 3 or 4 monitors where we have a portrait mode, and there you can see the race leaderboard. So I thought this would actually be a good venue to present my own RMS. It's actually quite very different from what you're used to, so we do a very different presentation. So you can now see that this will be quite a different demo. We are going to pretend that we are at the Suzuka event in January and at the digital race there. Of course, we don't have digital races here at our analog club, but we're going to pretend that we have. So I've swapped out the contents on the monitors to the RazManager RMS instead. So things looks a little bit different. We have some leaderboards, driver boards over there. We have changed the contents on the monitors. They're mostly showing the same thing here because this is a sort of a setup that we have at the club where everything is connected to one splitter, but we see a little bit different there. We have a position shot there. And here we're seeing, well, those workbenches are typically filled with people preparing the cars and things like that. But now we're going to pretend that we are at that race and people have brought their own devices, their own PCs and mobiles and tablets and so on, and are doing maybe some advanced race analysis of the race now, and maybe comparing different drivers, presenters, doing some position charts and looking at the mobiles. And here we have the cool guys on the Macs. And this is how the sort of recording works now with some chroma key stuff and the OBS program. But I think it will be maybe more interesting if we start race. So let's do that. So finally the race is underway, and we can see that we take a little while before the race actually starts. There will be 2 formation laps, so it takes a little bit of time before the different teams get up to speed. Also, I didn't had the order here in the qualification order, so we'll see a lot of swapping of the positions here at the beginning. So while this is running here in the background, let's actually start with asking the question, why? Why build an RMS? I mean, this is actually a big IT project, and every such program should at least start with asking you why you're doing it. So I myself have, I think, 4 big pillars of why I'm doing this. The first one is I ran a lot of slot cars when I was young. We had a lot of kids in the neighborhood, put our collective pieces together and had big tournaments. I also then had the opportunity to race against this guy here. This is still Sweden's most famous Formula 1 driver, Ronnie Peterson. So I got the opportunity to race against him twice when he was doing promotion for Electric. So for example, this car here has a special place in my heart. This is Ronnie's car when Maritza from Slot IT presented this a few years ago. He just summarized it with, well, this car doesn't need any further presentation, and this is, well, especially true for me. So thanks very much for doing that one. But we didn't have any race program then. And when we got our third kid at home, I thought we should have some slot car tracks then. And then I discovered that, yes, you can actually have a PC connected, and I could then maybe start writing things myself. That was 20 years ago, but I still have that dream to actually build a race management system myself. The second big pillar is on why I'm doing this is, well, I like to contribute with something. That's the person I am. So for me, it's fun to build something for others. Doesn't need to have an immediate feedback or thanks or anything, but it's fun to do something. And I probably look at it the way that someone else will do something for me another time and another day. So that's one big thing, contributing with something. Other thing why you're building our RMS is that I actually want to, let's say, change everything that we're doing. Slot car racing is very, very traditional. For example, here at this club, well, the track is 25 years old, and the program we're running have its, let's say, even it's updated, has its origins in technology for 20 years ago. And I think that we can do something very, very different compared to what we're doing today, instead of being rooted in old technology. Trying to look at things in a completely different way and see what we can do with new technology instead. And that brings us maybe then to the fourth why, and that is because I'm running my own little company as an IT architect and IT developer, and I need to learn new stuff every day, and I'm using this sort of project as a way for me to learning things and also then showcase what I built. So this is a sort of, yeah, it happens to be slot cars, but it's actually a showcase of the technology that is behind this, which can be used in completely different business areas. And then I get an opportunity to try things out and see how they work in practice. But okay, let's see also then how you can work with these screens a little bit more. So now we have a little bit closer look at two different types of leaderboards. One leaderboard, the one to the right, where we have portrait mode, and then one, let's say, called driver mode to the left, where we're showing a little bit more details in form of tiles for the different drivers in this race. There are 13 of them. This is on purpose a little bit from a distance. So let's work with this a little bit and see how we can make things maybe more visible from a distance. Depends on what you want to see in different situations in the race. To begin with, well, these are displays that we normally don't use here at the club, not in this way. The monitor to display to the left is from the club here, and the one to the right is something I brought from home, but we're using those other small monitors that you maybe saw earlier. So this is a little bit unusual setup for this club. Also then, the program that we are running here is actually the same that you would use on your own PC or tablet or phone. This is not actually the program that you will be running if you had a display hanging somewhere on a wall or wherever. You will use a little bit different version of that, similar but not the same, so you can do away with some of the menus and not see someone hovering around with the mouse and things like that. So that's a similar program, but it's different. But it will work similar way that I'm demoing right now. So the thing here to the left here, the driver board, may be a good layout for these 13 drivers during practice session when you want to have a graph showing of the latest lap times that you have. But if we want to change that a little bit, we can go into settings here and customize the driver board, and we can say that we, well, show only a minimal number of fields. Let's do it that way instead. And this will then do away with a lot of the other things, the graphs and so on, saw earlier, and then change the ratio a little bit on these tiles, and yeah, show things a little bit more bold, in your face type of type snit. One other way of working with this, it can still be a little bit too small here from a distance, and that is that you, instead of showing one screen with every driver on it, let's try to, for the driver board, say, for example, you can pick any one you actually want here, but let's say that you're picking the first half of those. And yeah, then we only have 6 tiles here, and they of course can get a bit larger. Still, the layout maybe need to be optimized a little bit, but you can have one screen showing the first set of drivers and another screen showing the other set of drivers. You can have any number of, let's say, displays that you want and have personalized information on those. Maybe when we are at it and we have 6 drivers displayed here, let's go into the driver board and then turn back to showing more information. Yeah, we see then that we get a bit more information. There's a graph there to the left of each tile that shows the gap to your own nearest drivers, and that might be good maybe if you're looking on your own device, maybe not on this display. Let's then also try to see how this looks from a layout here with the driver board. So now we're seeing the same information on these 2 different screens, but with different layout. And you can see then that the leaderboard here, it will adopt itself automatically given the space that is available. On the left side here, yeah, we can display every column that we want. On the right display, yeah, we have a little bit limited information here on the width, so the program will try to fill every row here to the horizontal line, and then it needs to do away with some of the columns. And how that works, yeah, you will get some control of that configuration, but it tries to make much attempt as possible to do the right things. You don't need to go in to configure everything. It should be easy to work with it from the beginning when you run this on your own device and just go into it. It's sort of like a web page. Let's try some other examples. Let's try instead to show a race where we have an analog race where we have only 8 drivers. Well, it will be a bit different then. This is how it looks, and I probably need to go in change here and say all the drivers. Let's do that, sure, and then we'll go to driver board, and it might look so there here, and a little more colorful when you have an analog race. Maybe you want to do away with some of the fields here. Let's do that then. Show only minimal information. Yeah, there we have it. Let's then try also to go and test an race which has energy / fuel, and then we'll see that, well, okay, we want to automatically get some fuel columns here. We don't need to configure that we should or should not do it. The sort of program understands that this is information that should be shown, and then we see that. If we then look at the driver board, yeah, it will be a little bit different. We will, for example, have how many laps you have left with the way you're currently driving. That's important information, so it will take a little bit place. And if we then go into and changing driver board again to showing, well, not only minimal, but showing everything. Yeah, a little bit different. We have the gap thing here. We have a few millimeter here. The time charts, latest time lapse and so on. Later times. But maybe at least on this display, it gets a little bit crowded. And this is a little bit of the problem with these large displays, because when you're standing, it might be a little bit hard to see these screens. If you're standing 2 meters away, fine. If you have a long and narrow track, it might work. But as the track that we're having here, that becomes a little problematic, because you need to see everything then from more than 5 meters away, and you cannot read anything then. So let's look a little bit on how you actually can customize this and make it work for a big venue like this one here. So down to 4 teams. This is what this monitor is usually used for. It's a little bit hard to work with it because it's only 1024 times 768 in resolution. So you cannot show that much on it, and the contrast is rather low on it. So it works a little bit better with large fonts, and maybe 4 drivers as we're seeing right now is sufficient for this one here. But anyway, we can show this type of information to a driver on a monitor close or nearby them. I think though that it's not always possible to do this way. So there need to be a little bit other way to get more information to the driver which want to have that one. So let's look at another alternative for that. I think though that the only thing that really works for having personal information is to bring your own device. It can be then a mobile,
lap time 12.14.
tablet or whatever, or PC as well. And then you can get, for example, as we're hearing now, personal audio for someone that we have selected. You can select a lot of different options for those sounds. You don't want to hear them maybe all the time. You maybe want to hear gap to the one in front of you, or maybe not every lap time, not
You are 1 lap behind global racing.
or at least not during practice. You want to hear every lap time then, and during qualifying as well. So a lot of options to configure those, but a personal device typically helps. Let's though press the Kimi button here, so we don't need to hear anymore. Those type of pit boxes that we're seeing here, this is mine then, we typically see at the workbenches, but I then see that people will actually bring their own pieces next to it and then doing some analysis during the race and doing some team tactics. It might be on a device like this. This is an old Linux PC. I think it's at least 15 years old, only 2 gigabytes of memory, but it has got a new life with running Linux on it. Same with this one here, also around 15 years old. Now running Linux, could maybe run Windows, but it's maybe a little bit too old for that one. Doing some position charts here. Here we are seeing maybe the race control. Looking at something here, we can see that the race control, because we can see some extra buttons there. You don't see that when you don't have that access. Using a wide screen certainly helps. You can do much better analysis on those, and particularly if you have then mouse with mouse wheel as well. That's almost sort of a necessity. Right, so let's look at some other monitors. Here we again have the cool guys. We don't have anything running yet on iPhones and iPads. That will come a little bit later. So let's then look at some other type of devices. Here we are seeing a Raspberry Pi. Well, you wouldn't bring your Raspberry Pi yourself to do this. It's more to show that, yeah, you can do that with a very cheap device. That's a Raspberry Pi with a sort of inside a keyboard. Costs only 100 euro or something. And it can be easy as this as well. This can be your race computer. That's all what you really need. $100 Raspberry Pi with a cheap display, and you can plug in your, for example, Oxygen dongle directly into this one. You don't need an expensive PC for that. And here we're seeing another option here where we are seeing a screen, but we don't have a power adapter for the Raspberry Pi. It can get its information from the screen. We can see here that it's only a 2 gigabyte Raspberry Pi. That will certainly do. We have now looked at why I'm doing this. We also looked at what this is. It's just sort of, let's say, bring your own device to enhance experience. It's more like a, let's say, a multiplayer online game where you can take your part yourself and control the information you have to see as a driver team or whatever you are. And you can do that even after the race as well. We haven't looked at that, but you can do that. But let's now look a little bit deeper into how this is actually done. So how does this work then? If we begin from the track side and then pretend that this is an auction race, a real one, then how would you connect the blue dongle then? Well, you could do that, so several options, but you could do that by connecting the dongle to a Raspberry Pi and run some special software on that one then. And you could of course connect it to a PC as well if you wanted to do that, but this gives a little bit more flexibility. You can place this Raspberry Pi wherever you want, meaning near the drivers, and you can also then place the race control PC wherever you want. And you can have several race control PCs. You can have a tablet run around with if you want to do it that way. If this had been an analog race instead, you could then connect the for example, the DS bridge here directly more or less to the pins of the Raspberry Pi. All that is needed to do that is to have a 10K resistor and it will work. If we were to connect the the LapMaster interface to that to Raspberry Pi, we could do that as well. If we pretend that this one here, it has a serial cable and it could be connected to Raspberry Pi as well, given that I get permission to do that and everything from the author of this. Hopefully that can be worked out. We can then use not only one Raspberry Pi, we can use several of those, more or less how many you want. They come in different flavors, and for example, this small little one here is pretty cheap, and you can add some I/O pins for that as well, and turn on LEDs and power relays and whatever. Another option for using Raspberry Pi, then we looked at some, but it could be to have an little bit trackside driver station with a 7-inch display, for example. I haven't assembled that one yet. We'll do that another way. How do all these things then? Well, we shouldn't forget about what is in here in the back here. This is Scalextric ARCs and the old ABP, APB. And this is an ARC Pro, it's an ARC Air, but I have the one at home. And you can then maybe wonder why should I support several type of track types, for example, Scalextric and analog and oxygen. Well, I think it's pretty interesting actually to combine those and add some functionality for that. For example, you could have an analog race and then run those cars through an oxygen cartridge, but still doing that, you can still sort of get the information from the controller through the oxygen dongle and still running running analog, but you can then do a real fuel simulation with real throttle input instead of running lap time based fuel simulation, which I think it's not working at all really. And all these Raspberry Pis and other things that we're seeing here, they need to talk to somehow with the system, and they do that through a network connection. It can be a wired network connection or it can be a wireless connection. In this case here, well, we do have a mobile router here. It's a simple mobile router with a SIM card in it, and actually every device that you see in here in this demo go through this one and out to the internet and to the some cloud service that have running that is running the real logic for the race management system. So it works actually very well. It's actually pretty stable. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we have some future gadgets as well, some Philips Hue lights that I want to connect as well, and different LED things for that one. We also have those LED displays, those RGB LED displays that can be used for example, advertising signs or leader boards signed by the trackside. Are you with me so far? Well, great. There's of course a lot of things to take in here, and then let's look a little bit closer into what RazManager is and what it actually isn't. This picture here shows what RazManager isn't, but this is the way that, well, typically any RMS currently works. They are centered around typically a Windows PC, can be something else, can be a tablet as well, and then you have a single RazManager person controlling what's happening. You might then also view that on other displays as well, either directly connected to the PC or through an HDMI splitter. On our cloud we even have VGA splitters for the screens. And then you have a track connected to the PC and maybe some other stuff as well. You can then passively receive that information as a driver if you have the time to look on the monitor. And you can passively do that as well when you're a team and standing by the trackside. But it's not personal information. You cannot control what's in there. It's a little bit like if you compare this to a game, it would be like the RazManager or race control is playing a game and you are passively watching it, but you don't take part of it, even if your information that is shown on the screen. This is instead the model that RazManager uses. It's, let's say, if you want to compare it to the game, it's more like a multiplayer online game, which you, as someone attending the race, not being then race control, that you actually yourself take part in. So it looks complex, but let's break it down. So the core logic is running not at your site, it's actually running on an internet server somewhere. And you, as a race controller, race manager, interact with that through the RazManager client. You don't need to have only one person doing that. You can be several doing that at the same time. It depends on the permissions that you have been assigned and when you log in. You can, and we saw that a little bit in the presentation here, that you can take that client and view that on monitors and view that to other persons that are team. You can do it that way. But what you typically want to do instead, and which I didn't demo then, which will be a future thing, is that you want to run those presentations for the different monitors at the club on dedicated screens, not maybe then hooked onto the race PC. Be free from that. You can compare this a little bit more to, let's say, an airport or public transportation or whatever, where you can view things on the screen, but you don't see race control hovering over there with a mouse or anything like that. And you can then don't need to have the same information all the time on the same screen. It can, let's say, work like a playlist and change different things at different points in time when, for example, the state of the race changes. Or you want to, for every reason, when you have a new heat and you want to have the person that should be on the lanes for the next heat, and you want to see that scrolling in from, for example, from the right. That information don't need to be on the screen at this all time. So it gives a lot more flexibility. And also when running cables, for example, we have at our club long VGA cables running through the monitors that you saw. We cannot use HDMI cables because that will be both too expensive and it won't work because they are so long. So we need to run VGA cables instead. But that, of course, limited the contrast and the resolution that can be possible. So it's not really a good solution. It's better to have a smaller device hooked onto those displays and control that device from somewhere else instead. You also saw me having some RGB displays laid out on the table and some Philips Hue lights. This is how you would connect them. And we also saw a Raspberry Pi, which you can hook up the Oxygen dongle to. It can be connected to another piece as well, but this gives you a little bit more freedom to do that. So this is what you maybe then would run on your local area network. And then you have a lot of other attendees at the site, but they would normally not, even if I did that in a demo, they would normally use their own internet connection, not to overload the one that you're running from the site. So you will see then drivers using their own smartphones hooked up with their ordinary internet connection, and then receive personal information either on the screen itself or when you're driving. For example, if you want to have fuel information, it's a little bit hard to look at the screen, even if it's nearby. It's easier to get that maybe through an audio feed instead. And you want to have, as we saw in the demo as well, we want to have maybe a person bringing on their own PCs or whatever device they have, tablet or phone, and doing real-time analysis to have better tactics. This is how they will connect. And you might then also have, you go home afterwards, so you're a person actually that want to view the race while it's happening. You can then take your own device when you get home, and then 3 weeks later, after the race has been happening, you can access the data and do some post-race analysis, even if after a race PC has been turned off. So this is quite a different model. It is, but if we want to expand and want to help get personal information to the drivers that are there, this is what you sort of need to do. So this then brings us to who it is really for, which are the target users, and maybe more importantly, who are they not? So this is maybe then not for race organizers that you really don't want to use an internet connection, and that is of course a very valid thing. We at our club, well, we don't have a permanent internet connection. We use a simple dongle connected to the race PC to be able to publish the races online using LapMaster. But you may, for whatever reason, not want to do this, and then yeah, that's of course fine. I don't think that you should really worry about if this works with an intermittent connection or not, because that's my profession to work with that, and even if temperature goes down, things will be buffered and stored permanently and so on. It's designed to never lose any message. Of course, if, let's say, the interconnection goes down for, let's say, a configurable amount of time, say 30 to 60 seconds, maybe you want to have an automatic track call, but if it just goes a little bit up and down, that will still work. And another category that maybe this isn't for, maybe you watch this and think that this is maybe, interesting, but not for me. I mean, that's, I think, the gut reaction for most people watching this. You maybe have a situation where, you're happy with what you have and you don't want to change, and you maybe have a situation where you don't have control of what things are doing. You more have an way of thinking that if it works, don't touch it. And then maybe this is not for you. You need to prepare to do some changes. For example, there will be automatic updates. There may be less than or up to 10 Linux devices. You saw me in the demo doing here. I had a new version that I needed to push out before the demo. And I did that, and then all these devices were automatically updated. I didn't even do anything with that, and it simply worked. But of course, if that feels a little bit scary, then maybe this isn't for you. But remember then also that, you're doing that every day. You're using IT solutions somewhere that is automatically updated without you having any control of that. And this is how RazManager actually works. You may then also want to, maybe not completely happy with what you're doing, and you want to replace that with another RMS to do something very similar to what you do. And if that's some small functionality you're after, but you really want to do more or less the same thing as you're already doing, maybe this isn't for you. I go to different races where, well, been doing in the same race format, but there may be 3 different RMSs. And for me, the experience when I attend the races, it doesn't change at all. It doesn't matter which RMS it is. It will be the same for me. So if you want to have the same experience, more or less, replacing what's on the screen with something else, then, and that's, I mean, it's a perfectly fine situation, then maybe this is the right choice. Maybe you should show something else instead. And also then, if you want to use a lot of, let's say, advanced digital simulations, it's common to have people be new to slot cars, or maybe coming from analog slot cars and are interested into digital and want to use all the different simulations that are here of. Maybe they don't work that well in a bigger context for bigger events. It a little bit due to the feedback that's needed, and simulations, at least for me, then needs to provide a clear strategic value, which is easy to understand. You can do that maybe with few simulations if you get a good feedback for audio or something else. That's worked fine, and that will be supported. What I also want to support is, for example, IndyCar push-to-patch type of things. I think that will work in some situations. But there are a lot of other things that people want, and that's, of course, perfectly fine. But maybe then you have better options for me, for you instead. So this is more than target to, let's say, mid-size or large slot car events. And how do you find that? What's a large event? Well, it's maybe a little bit then to, let's say, you need to have at least maybe 20 people, 20 drivers, or people that are taking part in teams divided into 20 people. You typically need to have workbenches when you work on the cars. If you arrive the day before the event to tune the cars and do practicing, if you want to catch an audience not attending the race, if it's sort of big event that someone else outside the event itself will be interesting to take part, maybe it's a big event. If you look at the track itself, maybe it's bigger if you can actually walk around the track itself. You have marshals. If you have a race control person that is not driving at the same time, if you have someone that is driving and at the same time are managing the race by pressing the space bar for track call, maybe then it's a little bit smaller event, and maybe RazManager isn't suited for. It will work, of course it will do, but you probably chose something else. So this is then to be able to address those large events. This is a part of the design. I mean, this is designed for world championships and as large events as you possibly could have. You saw me in the demo hooking up 20 devices to the same race at the same time, and this is designed to have, let's say, hundreds of devices connected to the same event or split into several events happening at the same time. This might seem to be a, let's say, high and hard to achieve requirement, but actually this is actually in a different context a simple thing, because this is meant to be a showcase for company events where people I showed this for have much more mission critical non-functional requirements on performance and stability and so on than a slot car event, even is the biggest one. So yeah, this is how it's designed. to cater for that. You may want to use this if you want to have team-related events, a lot of team functionality for that. Then you have a big event. If you want to stream the event or tend to do that, you saw some things there in the demo, which makes this maybe a little bit easier and a little more professional. You want to extend the experience while the event takes place, meaning that, yeah, you can let people have their own devices and get their own personal information and not only passively looking on screens. And you want to have maybe your users be able to post on races after the race PC has been turned off. Particularly also then if you want to have analog and digital events at your club. You saw me having different type of systems. They can be combined, but it also quite often then that you don't only have a digital track. You may have running an analog race on that same track as well. And then, or you maybe have an analog track nearby, but you run analog races on next to the digital track. And if you run those things on the same track, you can configure things and add a few relays to the, for example, Raspberry Pi. And when you create a race for either analog or digital, it will actually switch things automatically. So you don't need to connect the different cables and hook like that. It sort of it has a pre-configured, configured device for that, and you can rather easily then create a new race, and it will automatically understand how things should be configured without you needing to switch a lot of cables and stuff like that. So this maybe then sort of feels in this presentation like, well, this is divided into two things, and RMSs that fit this category cannot be used for this category. Well, of course not. I mean, you can use any RMS for a large event, and that's what's currently happening. And there are good alternatives for that, it certainly is. But it's a little bit more the opposite, that RazManager, well, maybe it doesn't fit some of the other more simpler things. It can work with that, sure it can, but you probably want to use other choices for that. So finally we are at the end. Congratulations if you've been with me this far. Hopefully you now got a good idea of what RazManager is. If you actually want to try it out yourself, you can do that. You can do everything what I'm showing here on the different screens. You can watch another YouTube tutorial. This wasn't really a tutorial, but you can watch a tutorial and then understand how you download the client yourself and then watch some races that have previously been held using Oxygen. Of course, a lot of challenges with this type of project. One among many of those will of course be to get analog races to put an earpiece in and then hear lap times that way through their own device. We'll see how that goes. I think that actually be very good. But I really want to do, for example, with new technology is to use AR glasses. This is not one of those, but think of this as having AR glasses with a HUD display in where you can see the information. It also has a little speaker here as well, which you then can use to hear lap times, for example, with. Fortunately, very fortunately, those who make those glasses a little bit insist on putting cameras in them as well, so people don't buy them. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe they'll find a pair that works a little bit better. So, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to leave your sort of comments of this somewhere on the internet. Thank you very much.